Have you ever seen? You don't like Friends, do you?
He's all right.
You see when Joey lies on his CV about how he's been dance trained at Juilliard.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
He runs off. The guy leaves him in charge. And then he goes, show him how it's done, Joey. And Joey just runs off. Yeah. You could have a few of them on your hands, mate, next week when he's like,
I'll be following him out the door, mate. Fucking hell.
Oh, well done, though, mate. It's good.
No, it's good. I'm enjoying it, but then so I basically had no equipment, and then today was like Christmas because I had like nearly fucking $6,000 worth of music equipment put in my studio, and then so all next week I'm just going to play with my toys and stuff like that. So that was pretty decent.
Nice.
Looking forward to that, mate. Yeah. But anyway, I've got big news, big news. Right. So I know that we've got a lot of followers, and thank you everyone that's been following and subscribing. But I thought I'd use my platform now to make an announcement that I'm going to run for Prime Minister of the UK. Or I'm not. Maybe I am. Am I not? I don't know. I'm going to ask Kim Kardashian. What do you reckon?
That's the least surprising announcement I've heard all week.
Really? Are you not surprised that I could run for PM?
Well, I think you could do a better job PM than the current one we've got. And also, I think you could do a better job in charge of a country than some of the people that are putting themselves forward. Especially over the pond. Across the pond, sorry.
Indeed, we are talking about Yeezy, Kanye West, Mr Kardashian. But before I am Scotty, that is Motty. Welcome back to another episode. We are again going to talk about US politics and the comedy that is going on over there. I mean, was anybody surprised that Kanye West put himself forward even for, what was it, a week before he detracted that he was going to do it? There's three things with this. He wanted to do because Kanye West in the past had spoke about his presidential ambitions, and then this week he came out and he said that he's a bipolar. Or Kim came out and said it's a bipolar episode, and then if that's the case, then maybe we should be looking at his mental health. And then if he is retracting what he said, does that mean that he's putting the MAGA hat back on and he really does still support Donald Trump? So there's loads of different avenues.
What's going on here, right? Sorry, just to interrupt. Let's clarify. So, is he not running then now?
Right. He came out. I think it's about this time last week. Put a tweet out. I was on the 4th of July, wasn't it? So what would that have been? Roughly. Well, it'll be a week ago when this goes out, and said something along the lines of, "It's in the hands of God. I am running for the president of the United States." And then earlier on this week, he gave an interview with Forbes. Talking about his sort of manifesto, and he's called it the birthday party. But that because when I become president, it's going to be everybody's birthday. And it was
that policy, is that an official policy?
Yeah, that's an official policy. I mean, what do we have over here? The raving loony monster party.
Monster raving loony party. Yeah. Looks one screaming loud such.
Which was set up as a joke, but he actually went to Forbes and gave a big interview about how he's going to do it on anti-abortion, anti-vaccine.
This is why is it Elon Musk retracted his support of him, didn't he?
Well, that was the thing, and he goes, "I've got Elon Musk who's going to be in my corner, and he's got Kim that's gonna guide him, and he's taken off the MAGA hat now, and he's no longer supporting Donald Trump." And then the day after that, Kim said that I always say one of Kanye's bipolar episodes, and that he's no longer running for president. So for the week between that, I was thinking, is he really that fucking Kanye? You know, not taken away from the bipolar episode. I just thought, because in the past he has spoke about his own ambitions to go to the White House, you know, which for Kanye's form doesn't seem that sort of far-fetched. And then like now he's come out with it like it's a mental health issue. But my issue, there's lots to talk about with it. But Kim Kardashian, when he put the tweet out, retweeted it, I think with a heart, as though she was supporting like what his ambitions are. Now, if you've got a mentally ill husband, what the fuck are you doing, encouraging him by doing the retweets? And if you've got someone like Elon Musk, whose house he was around the other week, taking photos of him, it reminds me of on a larger scale. I imagine like the whole, when we were talking about Amy Winehouse a few months ago, a few podcasts ago, about how her life spiraled out of control because she was, you know, she had a drug and alcohol problems, but there's that many people around her, which was portrayed in the film Amy, that just wanted to keep her working because, you know, you had to keep you had to keep her on a stage to get the money coming in. So you wonder what's happening with these people that are around Kanye West, why nobody is saying, no, for a start, take him off fucking social media and then you know what I mean, and really get him the help he needs, because Kanye does make a lot of money for a lot of people. And prior to him coming out and saying that he was going to be running for the birthday party and taking off his MAGA hat, it came out that through one of Donald Trump's new policies that his company will make $4 million benefit from it. So I wonder whether he sort of realised that, and that's why he's come out as a bipolar episode. It's just all very sketchy. I'm not too sure what you make of it, Jay.
Well, yeah, you're right. Sketchy is a great description of it. It really is. I mean, I saw a tweet. I think Elon Musk tweeted his support, like you said, and then retracted it, saying like, we have a different view on certain things. I think this was following Kanye West sort of becoming anti-abortion, anti-vaccine, or admitting that was his stance. It's weird with Kanye West because, listen, mental health affects you no matter how rich or poor you are. That's a fact. You know, it annoys me when footballers or whoever struggle, or pop stars, and people go, well, if I had all that money, I wouldn't be moaning. If you know, mental health issues don't discriminate or according to what's in your bank.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, me and you've had sort of ups and downs in the past, and it's not related to necessarily how much financial success you've got. Is a lot of the time it's just where you're at or whatever. So I can understand that. You know, he could have mental health issues, or he has got mental health issues, and just because he's successful and worth a lot of money doesn't mean that he can't suffer from them. And yeah, he probably does need to get a support, because I just think it's just become such a circus now with Kanye West that, yes, he obviously has got issues. Yes, the people around him should be supporting him, but there's also a line, and you know, if you keep crossing this line in certain things that he's saying, someone somewhere has got to take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Now, this is a guy that's come out in the past and said that slavery was a choice. He's endorsed Trump and give him some credibility, especially amongst certain sections of the black community. It's at a time when Trump has come out with outrageous statements and just out of order racist statements, in my opinion. And now this sort of run or not running for the presidency, it just, you know, yes, it's sad, and yes, he's got issues, but also somewhere along the line there has to be some responsibility for all this. Someone's got to take it, and he's got to take it. And if he has got these issues, and they've been going on since what, 2015, 16, I think, where he had that sort of breakdown on stage and the fallout with Jay-Z, and you can also see him going through it. You likened it to Amy Winehouse on stage, and I get where you're coming from then, because we've had it so publicly that get some help, because, you know, being rich doesn't mean you can't have mental health problems, but it does, at least in America, give you access to some of the better mental health care, because it's a private health sort of service. So, you know, the people around him should be encouraging him to do that. And he should be doing that, because he's obviously not. And he's obviously, you know, you saw him when he visited the White House. And I think I tweeted at the time and said, this is a guy who's mentally ill. He was in the Oval Office bouncing around. And yes, you can be excited because you're in the Oval Office, you meet the president or whatever. But it was almost gobbledygook what he was saying. And he was bouncing around and showing him his phone. And it was nonsense. And Trump was just sort of sat there, like, letting him get on with it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look right, this at all. So yeah, you're right. Someone's got to help him, and he's got to take some responsibility to get help as well, because I think he's been dealing with this for a few years now, and the first step, as we all know, is to try and get help, and he needs to do that, because it's just becoming a circus. And the sad thing for me with Kanye West in all of this is because he was a good voice, Kanye West, around college. Sorry,
right, well, with the Bush thing when he was on was it Hurricane Katrina, when he was on with Mike Myers, and they were doing like a charity show, weren't they? And then he turned around and said, George Bush doesn't like black people, and Mike Myers don't care about black people. Mike Myers' face is a peach in that when he.
We go back to Chris Tucker as well in the studio. Yeah. Chris Tucker is, you know, comedy Def Jam. Chris Tucker just sort of stood there like. But yeah, and like you look at his earlier albums, like is it College Dropout and Graduation, with like, you know, diamonds, and you know, nobody cares about Sierra Leone and how it relates to the diamonds we own, highlighting certain issues, you know what I mean, shining a light on him, being that voice, being an important voice, giving a shit about his own community. And he's just lost all that. He has. And he's just becoming more and more of a parody, and it's sad, because he obviously isn't well, he needs help, but he's just becoming a figure of fun. That's the sad truth about it. And yeah, you know, this presidential run or non-presidential run. I read somewhere that apparently Kim Kardashian's annoyed because they were actually he was going to run, or she was going to run, someone, I can't remember. I think it was we're going to run in 2024, I think. And he's he's jumped the gun. But it's just, and that's, to me, doesn't seem like a good combo at times. If you've got someone like Kim Kardashian, I'm told this. I don't know if it's true or not. I might be wrong, but I'm told she does like the limelight a little bit. She does like the odd bit of publicity. And apparently that's a big sticking point between her and her siblings, because they're all almost reclusive, and she likes to sort of be out there a little bit. Do you know what I mean? You probably don't even ever heard of the Kardashians. There's this family in America, but there's quite a few of them. You probably, I mean, they don't do much. They sort of keep to themselves. But yeah, so you've got this woman.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not. There,
thank God you realised there was.
I was like, what fucking rock has he been living on? How has he got to 2020 and doesn't know at least one more Kardashian? I was like, how is that possible? Anyway, carry on.
Do you know what my favourite Kardashian story is? I was watching the documentary on OJ because I'm a bit obsessed with OJ Simpson, and there was a thing on, and Kim Kardashian's his goddaughter. I don't know if she still is. I don't know if they cancelled it or whatever.
Can you do that?
I don't know. But there's this story. The night he robbed that hotel, or in Vegas when he went to jail.
Well, yeah, when he did all his memorabilia back on it.
Yeah, and he was talking. One of the guys who was involved in it was talking to camera. It's in this documentary, and he said an OJ came in and he said, "You know what the weird thing was? We were watching, the TV was on, and this interview came on with Kim Kardashian, and it was like one of her first ever TV appearances." And she was talking about how she's just been given her own show. And OJ went, "That's my goddaughter. Trust me, that show ain't going to be shit." It's just like, what? Yeah, you got that one wrong, OJ. But, sorry, the point I was sort of getting to was, it's not great when you've got someone who's just publicity obsessed as Kim Kardashian, who's constant in the media, family constant in the media, and you've got a guy who probably needs to take a step back from it all. It's not good. And I'm not saying, when I say good combination, I don't mean they should split up or whatever. I'm not saying that. I just think at the moment it's not working out well for them both. And I think somewhere along the line someone needs to change it.
Well, I think it's probably working out for her as it keeps her name in the papers, for one, where there's no such thing as bad press. But Kanye's been sectioned when you're talking about seeking the medical help. I think he was sectioned for 2 to 4 weeks, and that's when they got the bipolar diagnosis. And then he was on medicine, and then he ballooned up. He put a shitload of weight on. Did you see the interview with Kanye and Letterman on the Letterman series on Netflix, where we talk?
I've not seen that yet. Sorry.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good series. He has like Barack Obama on there.
I saw that one. I've seen a couple of them.
The Jay-Z one was really good as well. But yeah, so we talked about his mental health and how he's struggling with it. But I think Kim Kardashian sort of, she loves that shit. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, she's very much a publicity hound. And if you look at Kanye, if you look at Kanye's career, I think they got together around the time of what is known as Kanye's masterpiece, which is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And that was about his breakup with, I forget the name of the woman that he broke up with. He was a famous dancer. And they split up anyway. But after that was when him and Kim got together. And that was what I post that was when he fell out with Jay-Z. And there's a lot of spiraling out of control around the same time that he actually got with Kim Kardashian. Now, obviously, she's not the reason for somebody having bipolar, but at some point you got to take control of your actions, or at least your surroundings. And if me sat in Manchester can see that your life's been going to shit since a certain date, I mean, and the whole world can see that, then at some point he's got, and again the people around him, and also I know when Kanye lost his mum around, I think it was the 808 and Heartbreaks album, or maybe just before that, and I think that was around the Taylor Swift thing when he said Beyonce should have won that. I mean, he's got a career of making.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the Taylor Swift documentary?
No, we talk about it briefly, but he's got a career. We'll talk about it in a minute, Jay. But he's got a career of doing like erratic stuff. He got on stage and slagged off Beyonce and Jay-Z because they didn't turn up to his wedding or something like that. And when not didn't turn to the wedding, Kim got married. Kim got robbed, didn't she, in Paris?
Yeah.
Or something, and Beyonce or Jay-Z didn't send a text or something.
That's when he had that little meltdown. Yeah, that I was referring to.
Yeah. But yeah, it is sad. One thing that always got my goat about Kanye West was how he's a very, very talented man, an amazingly talented man. But I hate, and it's not just something that I attribute to him, it's when anyone refers to himself as a genius. You're not allowed to say that you're a genius. Do you know what I mean? a genius is put upon you. You don't know. Nobody says that. Picasso or Da Vinci didn't. No, Picasso didn't walk around Barcelona like, I'm a genius. And Da Vinci, but he very much says, or Steve Jobs, who he puts himself in line with these great, amazing figures, and says that he's a genius. And it just, you're not, mate. That like genius is usually ascribed post your life. You know what I mean? And like I said, what he's doing now at this moment in time is tarnishing the body of work that he's created to date. And the thing why Kanye West is so successful, his first album, The College Dropout, was a brilliant album, but it was by and large using a very easy sampling technique by speeding up an old soul sample and making it sound like a chipmunk. And he got it right through a lot of the stuff. But he surrounds himself with the likes of Pete Rock, RZA, so many amazing. His greatest album is he brought out like something like fucking 70 different well-known musicians to Hawaii to work on it. Now that's a great composer. Doesn't mean you're a great musician. So I always just met him when people say that they're a genius. It's like when this week I've been looking at CVs. You know when someone says I've got a good sense of humor. But you don't get the choice. You don't say you've got a good sense of humor or I'm a people person. Are you? Good. I've got a good personality. According to who? It's weird, isn't it, when people say that on CVs?
You got. I mean, I get it. I bet that is a bit. Yeah, I get where you're coming from because that seems more like a dating site than a CV. I've got a good sense of humour. I'm bubbly. All right, annoying then. In other words,
get on well with people. Well, thankfully, you're going to be working in an office full of people. We didn't want.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a fucking sociopath. I get on well with people. I can talk to people. That's handy.
Next life, I have the ability to breathe and open my eyes.
But my favourite is, and I've done this myself, is I can work on my own or as part of a team. No shit, Sherlock. Hey, there's a fucking revelation. You can work on your own or you can work with others. Yeah, because that's called life.
Because there is no third option.
You're either on your own or you with someone. That's like the one constant in life. Forever. From the moment you get born to the moment you die, you are either on your own or with people. That is it. There's no in between. So putting out your fucking CV means nothing. But I've done it. Do you know what I mean? Does anyone ever write? Not like that. I can't work with others, and I can't work.
Yeah.
So fucking forget that. Right? We'll give it a job. What the fuck? That's just meaningless. It's just nonsense. That's something with like, name something about yourself that's a criticism of yourself. Or sometimes I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, I try too hard. Fucking boring. But going back to Kanye, just a couple of points. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I'm not a massive Kanye West fan. I did go and see him a few years ago, 12 years ago, because he had a lot of songs out that I liked, and a few of us went. There was like 6 of us who went. He did. It was like around 2008, 2009, and it was like hit after hit after hit after. He was on stage. It was at the the Manchester Arena. But I couldn't think of anything worse now than go watching fucking Kanye West. But also the Taylor Swift thing wasn't great. She was 17, I think, at the time when he got on stage, and then it became a bit of bullying. I felt.
Yeah,
like, the way it played out in the media and Kim Kardashian getting involved and then playing clips and stuff. It was a real nasty undertone. And I think that documentary we spoke about before, it made me look at Taylor Swift differently because I think she's actually got a good heart. And I didn't like it. I thought it was bullying. If that was, your daughter or whatever, you'd be fuming. And yeah, you're right. It's sad, and he was a voice, and now. Yeah, it's just something needs to do. Something needs to be done, and I didn't realise he actually had been sectioned, and that's what he did. I know, so I didn't want to dismiss that. He obviously has got help in the past, and hopefully he can get help in the future. Because just from a sort of human level, you want to see someone who's going through that so publicly and get the help they need, because it's just it isn't great, and you almost wonder what's next.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen this sort of behaviour? Like today, Amy Winehouse. How many times have we seen this behaviour? How many times have you seen people turn it around? Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing. And you're right to say that it's about mental health and stuff, because leading up to his when he retracted or when she retracted that he's not running for president, I was ready for coming on here and got all guns blazing at Kanye. You know what I mean? Before it was said it is a bipolar. And now you're right. When footballers come out, it's human at the end of the day. You know what? It's human. It works well on his own and it works well with
He's a rare breed. He can work either on his own or with one with him. You ought to get him in. Hey, for that job we've got.
It's like a unicorn.
Yeah. I found someone who can work on his own or with others. Snapped up before someone else does. Mate, you know football would have to do a CV or whatever, update me. See, I'm going to fucking still leave that in. I think everyone does. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
You know what you should do if you ever have to do a CV again is put it in and then make a reference to it.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah.
See on my CV it says I can work on my own or a thing.
I might actually go for an interview just for the fun and get like a webcam, a spy cam on just for a fucking laugh, and then just do these sort of random quotes and just like I'm on my own, honestly, and with others.
Right, you say she'll have. I think you might have done it. I can't remember if it's a BBC or whatever, where you go through that interview application process. And you have to explain certain things you said, and it's like if you said, I can work on my own as part of the team. It'll say, give examples. Well, there was this one time, I was in a team and we worked on something, and another time I was on my own. All right, great, yeah.
Oh, man. Right, let's move on from fucking one musician who's acting up to another, and that's Tom, I never can pronounce his surname, I don't give a shit if I get it wrong, Tom Meighan, who's the frontman of Kasabian, who I have not been a fan of for a very long time, just due to his antics on stage, or when he very much tried to be talking about Kanye West being a parody. He very much wanted to be Liam Gallagher and had everything except for the talent of Liam Gallagher to do it. He was just basically a gobby frontman who liked cocaine too much, and I never understood why Kasabian had so many fans. They were great. They were a great singles band, and I mean this isn't a Kasabian bashing thing. But what happened this week is that I think it was on Tuesday, Kasabian released a statement saying that due to Tom's health reasons or mental health reasons or whatever, that Tom will be stepping down from the band. And then that created a whole furore, everyone saying, oh, Tom, as we've just done with Kanye West saying, if he's got mental health problems, we should
Yeah, sorry, mate. Was it, if the Kasabian statement, was it personal issues or was it mental health?
Is it personal issues or mental health?
I think it was, yeah. No, but I'm sorry, go on. I know you're going to get...
Yeah, you're right. So, no, we don't want to get that wrong. But personal issues, but people try and put two and two together and say that, it's down to mental health, and everyone was like, oh, well, I hope Tom's okay, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the following day it came out that he'd gone to court and admitted guilt for beating up his girlfriend in front of a child and beating her up. I've not seen the video of it, but apparently it was quite horrific. I mean, to lay a hand on another person, let alone your partner, is disgusting, and to do it in front of the child is another level. And then that came out, and obviously the Twitter, everyone sort of retracted their concern about Tom's health, and he relayed it down to his alcohol abuse and his it's not down to my ADHD. And then Tom released a statement saying I've got ADHD, but it's not down to that. But why the fuck are you putting it in your statement? You know what I mean? Why do you feel that's beneficial? You know what I mean? Anyway, saying that him and his partner are trying to move beyond it. And then after that, Kasabian released a statement saying that we couldn't say anything before the trial or whatever, before he got him pleaded guilty. But we had to get rid of Tom for so many reasons. Now, I'm not too sure if that was the right way for the Kasabian as the band to do it, really. They should have either let Tom come out and it go to court and it publicly play out that way. Then Kasabian say he's been kicked out of the band. But it was never really strongly worded. But I just want him as a frontman is what I find abhorrent. I fucking hate how we're in 2020 and people like him who, before this actually became to the public eye, had been acting out like a lunatic. Like I said, I thought Liam Gallagher was cool for acting the way he did back in the 90s when I was 16. Not anymore. I don't think it's great anymore. 24 years later, and yet we still, as a society, put these people up on a pedestal. He was on Soccer AM, completely sniffed off his fucking face and acting an arsehole. He's been in interviews just slagging everybody off left, right, and centre. And I just want to talk about like toxic masculinity, and this is what I think they give men a bad name. Don't you think? That this in many ways, and musicians, this is sort of the people that our younger generation are looking up to, because Tom is the same age as me and you. Well, the same age as me and you, and I don't want him to be in the peers. And I was reading I read an article in the Times yesterday about it, and they were saying, well, Tom very much evoked football terrace culture. No, he fucking doesn't. That's so offensive to suggest that his behaviour up to this point and beyond is relevant to people who watch football on the terraces. I'll get the journalist's name in a minute, but obviously he never goes to football matches, because what 1970s football terrace culture?
Do you know what that reminds me of? Do you remember when Trump was talking about grabbing women by the pussies?
Yeah.
And he said it's just locker room talk. And Nigel Farage defended it, saying, it's just banter. It's like it's locker room, dressing room banter. Now, me and you played a bit of football, and at no point in any of the dressing rooms I've been in did you talk about sexually assaulting women.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's just nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Lots of shit goes on in dressing rooms. You chat a lot of nonsense and sexism and stuff like that. I'm not saying that doesn't, but you wouldn't be going on about, attempting to rape women or whatever and laughing about it. It's just fucking rubbish. And this sort of is the same similar thing. It's terrace culture. No, it's not. Own it properly.
Yeah.
Don't just pivot to, I've got ADHD. I know we just spoke about mental health, but that isn't just the go-to thing for every time something goes wrong. It's all the mental health. That's not an excuse for everything. And if you've got mental health issues, you've got a responsibility in some cases to try and seek help. And if you're not, and if you haven't, you're just using that as an excuse, you should be ashamed of yourself. Now, I saw the statement by Kasabian, I think, that said personal issues. I think I might be wrong. I think it said personal issues. And then everyone started messaging, obviously, as you said, condolences or whatever, or support, sorry. And then it comes out that it's this, and everyone feels a little bit angry because they've almost been conned into offering support. And then he releases a statement, a sort of almost a non-apology, really, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You're making excuses, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
It's this, it's that. It's just, you're just a dickhead. That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? That's your problem. And you have to own that and just admit that and try and move on for it and become a better person. That's what you need to do, not make excuses and try and act as though it's not your fault when it is your fucking fault and you've done it. And what next? Kasabian, I mean, to be honest with you, this is a bit of an aside, but remember when United got knocked out of the Champions League in 2012? I think we lost to Benfica or something.
Yeah.
I went to see Kasabian that night. We got knocked out in the group stages, and United were playing that night. Everyone thought it was a formality. We were going to go through. We got knocked out, and I was checking on my phone, and then it just ruined the gig for me. It ruined Kasabian, because whenever I hear Kasabian, it just fucking reminds me of that. So I'm not really a massive Kasabian fan, if I'm being honest, just because of that. But yeah, this whole, and half the time, it's people using that excuse or pretending to be something they're just not. Do you know what I mean? That's not your persona, and you're trying to pretend to be that. And he's obviously a bit of a coward if you're going around beating up women or whatever. And he's just, you own it and try and get. See, when you say try and get a bit of help, it's almost like you're passing the buck and not appropriating blame to them. You need to take responsibility. It is his fault, but try and get, I don't know, just try and be better. Do you know what I mean? Try and get whatever it is, do whatever it takes to improve yourself as a human being. You know better than anyone. I had issues around drink and drugs, so I did something about it. Yeah, I got the help and the support that I need to become a person that I can be proud of, or that my family can be proud of, and is a productive member of my family and society. If you can't do that and you need some help, do it then. Get the fucking help and the guidance that you need. And he's obviously got enough resources at his disposal to do that. Just fucking go and do it. Do you know what I mean? And stop being a dickhead.
Yeah, the Kasabian statement was, what did he say? He said, due to personal reasons that have affected his behaviour, we have mutually decided that he will leave the band. Right?
Right.
But that's not mutually. So, mate, Jay, if you started, I'm not saying this had never happened, but if this was a situation, I wouldn't work with you. It would be mutual. I'd be saying, like, fuck off, Jay. I'm not,
yeah. If I had any spine left,
yeah,
I'd admit that. I'd say, you know what, I did something I shouldn't have done, and Scotty had enough. Fair play to him. I can't blame him. Do you know what I mean? I've got to own it and deal with it. but not this mutual fucking, circle jerk.
Yeah.
Just
Why wait until the day before the trial that you knew he was going to plead guilty to put something out? Now, if he has real sorrow for his actions, then you do it before it gets to the date of where it comes to trial. He put something out because he knew it was going to come out in the public eye once it had gone to statement, once it had gone to trial, surely, wasn't it? If you hold real guilt and you want to make change and stand up and atone for your actions, then you make a statement earlier than the day it's going to come out in the papers.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's just, the whole thing stinks, doesn't it? Really. Yeah. It's not been handled in the right way. I mean, what he's done isn't, is obviously bad enough, but there's a way to handle it. There's a way to say, right, okay, how can I move forward in my life? But, I don't think that this, doing something like this, although it's obviously abhorrent and I would never condone it, I don't think that this is it now, that your life should be over. Of course not. You should have the opportunity to, still progress as a person and to grow or whatever. But you need to sort of get off on the right foot, and he's got off on completely the wrong foot with it all now. Do you know what I mean? Because it stinks of sort of, I don't know, just trying to find the right word. It just stinks of a bit of sort of self-pitying, really.
That's a perfect way of putting it, self-pitying.
And it's a bit of a turn off that. I think, you need to be a bit more of a, for want of a better word, a bit more of a man about it. Yeah. And just get on it. Just say, you know what? I fucked up. I was out of order. I've got to learn from this and grow from this and try and, make myself a better human being. And Kasabian, the band, should have said, you know what, like he said, he did what he did. It's disgusting. We're not having it. And he's gone. And it's like, right, okay. No, it's mutual. It's what the fuck is that all about? Yeah. None of them have covered themselves in glory, have they really?
No. What do you make about the whole concept of toxic masculinity and stuff? Like as a father to girls as well as your son, like bringing him up, because obviously we grew up in the 90s, and like I was saying, Liam Gallagher was the sort of model man, wrongly in many ways. You know what I mean? But that's what you sort of aspired to. Or we can look at the footballers that we used to look to, like Ryan Giggs' actions and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Or certain ways, the drinking culture and stuff like that. But that the way he acts and behaved, it just reminds me of like a 90s or a throwback. And we need to be making more of an example of people like this now. I always, toxic masculinity for me is always an interesting conversation. But I hate when Owen Jones has a say on it, because he just does it in a very, it doesn't do a nuanced article. He was whinging this week about cancel culture isn't working. So and so is still got a job. Blah blah blah. And he always does it from a sort of a whiny sort of standpoint. I know he's had his problems regarding getting beat up by the far right. But I always think he doesn't do it at a conversational level. So I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on like toxic masculinity as a term.
Yeah, I know what you mean. With all that, I mean, the biggest headache I have, or the biggest fear I have really as a parent, is my son. I think people say it's different when you have girls, and they're right. When you have girls, you're very protective. You're very sort of, this is my little girl. I'm going to do it to make sure she's okay, and that sort of thing. With a son, it's different because you have that. He's your son, and you love him, and you want to protect him and do anything for him. Obviously, I don't love him any more or less than his sisters. But there's also a part of me that wants to make sure, like, discipline is an important thing, and I want to keep him on the straight and narrow more. I worry about that more. I worry about him going down the road that I went down, because I've got, loving, fantastic parents, and for a good 10 years or probably a little bit more, I was a fucking nightmare. I don't want him to go through the things that I went through and to lose his way like I lost my way. So there's that. And I think you want to sort of set that right example and not be, I don't want to be that sort of guy who's like, be a man and be a man's man and and all that, hammer home. But I do want to have that thing of, you know what? You've got to respect women. You've got to stand up for yourself. You've got to have that sort of, I don't know if it is machismo is the right word. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have that bit about you where you are, you've got to be a strong individual. And that goes for both, women and men. It's not just reserved to my son, but there's different sort of responsibilities, different expectations that come with lads nowadays. And it's the same when we were growing up. You grew up in a similar area to me. And I don't think that goes away. So I don't think, young lads now aren't getting into fights or, having sort of pressures put on them. And in social media, it can be even worse. So, you try and guide him, and I try and discipline him, guide him in the right way. But yeah, with toxic masculinity, it's something that's only sort of recently come under my radar. I don't know how long. I mean, when did it first come up? When when I say recently, I mean like in the last few months.
No, it's been as a term. I think it's been around like maybe 5-10 years, but I think it's up there. Recent things that have been happening in the press, which we'll talk about later on about Thandie Newton. I think it's become more of a sort of a growing phenomenon is the right word. But I think people, I think everything is more under a microscope now, isn't it? And everything has a term for sort of certain actions. So I think it's probably over the last 5 years, but. Similar, like when you were talking about like raising your son, I don't have any sons, but me and my missus, I've spoke about. Do I not regret not having a son because I won't be having any more kids? Whoa, that's that.
Yes, I don't think there's any revelation to anyone that knows me when I say that I'm fully on board that boat with you as well, mate.
Yeah, that's definitely not happening. But part of it is the fear of I wouldn't know how to raise a son like me because it scares me. And because I found it a really, really scary experience growing up. I hated it. I did because I didn't know what was the acceptable way to behave. I found myself sort of mirroring the wrong people. I found myself sort of, and falling with the wrong crowds, as we both had, and going down the wrong path. And I'm not saying my sister didn't, but for some reason my sister had a better head on her shoulder. Do you know what I mean? And knew when she was when to stop really, but I was fucking lost for ages, and I always think that's because of the lack of, and it's not down. I don't blame my dad in this because he was part of the same sort of pub culture. Oh, you're not a proper man, and that's why I didn't want to come out as a poet, because coming out as a poet was like coming out as a homosexual, or coming out really sort of creative. It was really. What do you mean you're a poet? There's no. If I'd have said that in 1990s Manchester in a pub where everyone's listening to fucking Wonderwall. Which are poetic lyrics and stuff like that, and the Ben Sherman shirts and stuff like that, and kick a loafers. I'd have been twatted in the pub. What? You're the poet? I'd have been called every.
You could have blagged it and said, "I'm a rapper."
Yeah, and I would have been called. Well, I'd have been laughed out of the rap clubs as well. But I would have been called every homophobic slur under the sun.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of pressures that you sort of go on, and then you lose your own identity because then you start thinking, okay, well, if that's not how I'm supposed to behave as a man, then you start looking at these other people and these other either localized idols or the likes of Liam Gallagher and thinking, right, that's how you behave. And then you look at how they behave to other women and you're thinking, shit, you know what I mean? And then it's only with the beauty and essence of time away from where you've come from that you can actually analyze it a bit better. And I think that's where toxic masculinity is because there's been that much shit to sort of look back on, and the actions. Because a lot of like strong women have come forward with the Me Too movement and explained that I think men have had to take a really look at themselves. When I see someone like that, like the Tom from Kasabian acting that way, it just makes my skin crawl because I think I want us to move on away from that. And had that not happened, Kasabian and him and that front man who still had dickhead actions regardless of the him beating up his fiance. Was still put on a certain pedestal. Now, I think as a society, we need to be looking, choose your idols, right? Choose your idols wisely.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying, you spot on. I think one of the big things with me is being that example to my son. Like showing him that, it's all right if he gets upset or whatever. It's all right if he wants to feel certain ways. There's nothing wrong with that, and not, and I think I know he can be a bit of a nightmare, but I think my son respects me. So showing him that, being a male or a man isn't all about being tough. It's about other things as well. And it's about, do you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with being in touch with those different feelings and that different side to you. I mean, he's got two sisters. He's slight little things like, do you remember when Lewis Hamilton got in all that trouble because his nephew wore a dress?
Oh, dress, and he said, "Don't be a girl." Or something.
And I felt a bit sorry for him because I get it. It's an easy thing to say. Dresses are for girls. Do you know what I mean?
It didn't come from a place of malice when he said it, did it?
No, it was just that. But I remember around the same time, I posted a picture of my son because his sisters dressed him up in a dress and a hat. And I put it on Facebook and I've just told him that I think the hat's a bit too much. But like, I remember Missy saying like, "Are you worried or is he all right? Are we all right?" Like, it's just to keep dressing up as girls. He's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like they're having a laugh together as kids. Just leave him to it. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong or right, wrong about that. And he's all right. And I think he just creates. My thing is just create an environment where my kids can be happy with who they are and don't try and force them or the things that it wasn't even necessarily from my mum or dad. It was like the area I grew up in, the lads I was with. Yeah. You expect to, you've been there yourself, Scotty. If someone steps up to you, you step up to them and you scrap your way out of it. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Do you know what I mean? If someone is gay or you think someone's gay, you give them shit, and that's not nice. And I'm not saying I'm proud of that. I'm talking about as a kid, that was the way it is. People did. You know what I mean? And it was like, you throw in a few bit of the racial element I had to deal with as well. And there was times when it was tough, but I'm not saying my childhood was bad at all because I had a close-knit group of friends and we all bounced off each other. But no, I don't want my son dealing with that. I don't want my son growing up in that environment. As much as I can protect him and get steer him the right way, then I'm going to, and the sort of less toxic masculinity we've got, the better. And just going back to one final point before we move on about what you said about Owen Jones, it's a real contradiction for me, Owen Jones. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's really weird. It's like that fucking, the football team that keep winning but play shit football. Do you know what I mean? It's like a lot of the time I'm almost on the same argument as him.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I just don't like the way he goes about it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's times when I think, yeah, you're right, I agree there. I do. That is out of order or that is wrong or do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm more to the left than I am to the right. I won't class myself as left wing as he is at times, but there's times when those are my opinions. But then again, it's the way he goes about it, the things that he does, things that he says. Even like when he got beat up, I felt sorry for him, and it's horrible when he got beat up by right wing muppets, and when the right was sort of piling on, you feel like you want to protect him and stick up for him, but then. Just because that's happened doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything he does and says. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't want the time. And I met Owen Jones briefly once in Warrington, and it was like, this is how fucking stupid it is. There was an Ed Miliband speech. It was ahead of the 2015 election.
Yeah.
And Ed Miliband was giving a speech at a Labour event in Warrington, so I went down there as a reporter and covered it, and Owen Jones was there, and here's one for you. He was with, if you can guess who he was with, you're a fucking genius. Go on, have one guess who he was with. He was filming a documentary with someone.
Maxine Peake.
No, you're not even remotely in the same stratosphere. He was with Joey Essex. This isn't a lie. He was filming a fucking documentary with Joey Essex about politics because, this is how we get to the cusp of any political argument. We get Joey Essex involved. So they were fucking filming this, and they'd gone to this Labour event, and I wouldn't have minded getting Owen Jones as a reporter to get his opinion on how he thought Ed Miliband could do whatever. But when I spoke to his people, he was busy filming his scenes with Joey Essex, so he didn't have time. Which just fucking shows you where we're at as a society, I suppose. But yeah, I just think with Owen Jones, he sometimes he just sort of rushes into these arguments, and he's so militant with it that some people are going to be like, hang on a minute, can we not be a bit news? And there's a bit of hypocrisy as well. If you're going to go after cancel culture, is your side of the street clean? Or have you tried to cancel people yourself?
Yeah.
And if you have, then you can't be moaning it both. You can't be both ways, do you know what I mean? I think that's the problem. It's just that little bit of hypocrisy and also going too far. And I just think, I think it's sad because at times I do agree a lot of what, I'm not going to lie, so I do agree with a lot of what Owen Jones has got to say. It's difficult sometimes though to fully get on board with him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a huge bugbear with Owen Jones. I don't want to turn this into an Owen Jones slagging session, so I'll try to do it in an honest way. Is that I find it a bit sore that it's a bit like he's a tourist. I don't understand why he is the spokesperson. Like fucking Ja Rule is the spokesperson for black people in America. I don't know why Owen Jones, who it was a middle class person talking about working class issues. I just don't get why he has no experience of it. Do you know what I mean? It's more of a commentary on what he sees, not what he's lived. So why is he always the go-to person when it comes to interviews about working class issues? It always drives him mad. And an example of this happened in. It's like if It's like if I go around talking about race issues, now I can have a point of view on it, but I can't say what it's like to be a black man. If I went on, I wouldn't be allowed to go on to GM or a black woman. It'd be laughed off the screen if I went on like Dizzy Rascal on Pit with Piers Morgan talking about what it's like to be a black person and race issues. You know what I mean? I can talk about it from a sort of outside point of view, but I don't see why he speaks about it from where he is.
This is what me and you've touched on before, mate, and I think this is it's almost like an institutionalized thing. There's like a pool of 10 people across the media who are the spokespeople for everything all the time. So you'll have, Owen Jones, you'll have Julia Hartley-Brewer, is it?
Yeah.
You'll have Yusuf K. Hopkins until she got completely cancelled. You'll have Lawrence Fox has popped up as one. And he's fucking like, ubiquitous all of a sudden as a right-wing voice. But commenting on all sorts of other things like racism and Islamophobia and all sorts of things that he's just got absolutely no understanding or comprehension of or experience of whatsoever.
Yeah.
But we'll get him on because it'll get clicks, it'll views. And it's just a job for the boys. Isabel Oakeshott, she's another one. That's what I was trying to think of. And it's like they just do the rounds. These same sort of 10, 15 people, whatever, just do the fucking rounds on all the media, whether it's GMB, whether it's Question Time, whether it's, This Morning or whatever, or fucking Loose Women or whatever it is, Newsnight. And you see the same opinions and voices regurgitating. And if it's a left wing or a liberal issue, we'll get Owen Jones in. If it's a right wing issue, we'll get Isabel Oakeshott in. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you're just going round the house with these same groups of voices. And that's why I'm thinking, I think the platform we're on now, YouTube, and audio or iTunes, whatever, is important because I think a lot of people do get more of their content from there. You get more voices, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on it.
Yeah.
I think you do, and I think that it's something that the mainstream media needs to look at more because there's millions of people out there that you can get an opinion from. You don't need to keep getting the same ones. And I'm not saying don't rate Owen Jones as a writer. He can be a good writer. He has got a way of writing about him. I understand that, why people rate him, but like I said, with all those other names, there's lots more voices you can get out there. Do you know what I mean? And people that have lived experience of the issues you're talking about.
It's like he's been on a stagecoach safari through Longsight, and that's his whole basis. I've read a few books about it, but he doesn't know what it's like to actually grow up and have these working class issues. I was just adding the stories that back in the 1960s, Bob Dylan released a change. Not a change is going to come. The times are a changing, which is about the race riots and obviously the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King. And Sam Cooke went, well, what the fuck is a white man talking about making songs? Which is great. He wasn't having a dig at Bob Dylan said like that, but he can't talk about it because he can only say it from an alien point of view in many ways. So then Sam Cooke, as a sort of response, wrote a change is going to come. So far.
It ties in, mate. I'll tell you so briefly. It ties in with my experience of getting off drugs. You can try and get off drugs from people who've never experienced it and just who've read a book on it, or you can get help from people who wrote that book. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I remember going through things, just crackers, things like doing a drink and drug diary once. Where you fill in a diary of what you've had. And then what you do is each day, like Monday, I've had like 10 pints of cider and fucking, a bag of sniff or whatever. And then Tuesday, you try and cut down. So it'll be like 8 pints of cider and half a bag of sniff, right? This is a real thing, this guy. I'm not fucking making this up. This is the sort of shit you go through when you're trying to get better. And what I do is, right, I meet my counsellor once a week and he'd give me this drink and drug diary. And I'd leave it all week. And then on the way to go meeting him the next week, I'd fill it in on the way there, and I'd be like making it up, going like, oh, on Tuesday I had fucking, 8 lines, and on Wednesday I had 7, and on Thursday I had, 5, and on Friday I had 2. And it was like going down and down, and I'd take it to him, and he'd read it, and he'd go, oh, look, you're doing really well here, this is great. And because of the madness and the illness and the addiction, the way it is, I'd leave there thinking I was doing really well. Not thinking, I just lied to him and made up all this shit and it's nonsense and I'm fucking out of my head every night. I'd be going, oh, I'm doing really well. This is working. And it's just like, it's the same thing, me. You get people who, and it's not his fault. He was trying his best. You know what I mean? I'm not having to dig at the counsellor. But sometimes you need people that have lived have that lived experience of certain issues to be speaking about them, and that's where I'm coming from with that one. So yeah.
I had 10 pints of cider. It reminds me of like a fucking Craig David remix.
Got hammered on a Monday. Woke up in a skip on Tuesday. Got arrested on Wednesday.
Fucking nobody does them diaries. Remember when did you ever go through the torturous pain of signing on and you had to blag fucking interviews that you had?
Oh, of course I did. Horrible. Oh, mate. Do you know what?
I didn't write a diary. I'm not going to do it when I'm trying to get a fucking drink.
Yeah. it was madness, mate. Honestly, it was madness. Like I went through so many different ways and means to try to get on the show, and I got there in the end. And a lot of it was from helping people who'd been through it, who'd lived it and done it themselves. And that's the thing, and that's why I think, going back to it, you need to hear more from the voices who've experienced. Like you said, me and you talk about any topic. Whether, we don't just say, like, and I think it's important we do. I don't think only gay people should address LGBTQ issues. I don't think only black people or, mixed race people should address race issues or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I just think it's important that enough voices from the right communities are heard on mainstream platforms, because they ain't.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know who else has been keeping a diary or a little black book of things that have been happening in her life?
Nice segue, son. Nice segue.
Is it Thandie Newton, not Thandie Newton?
Thandie Newton, I think so, yeah.
Thandie Newton, who I've loved as an actress ever since Gridlocked that we spoke about.
Oh,
yeah. With Tupac and Tim Roth. She was brilliant on that. But she said that she's got a black book of everyone who's done, I'm not going to do the quote right, but about horrible experiences across Hollywood. And Tom Cruise doesn't come out too well from the interview. I don't think she's particularly bad towards Tom, is she, do you think?
No, I think she's sort of questioning his methods of trying to get a performance out of her. I think he was I don't think he's crossed the line here, where it's like, oh, that's, he should have been arrested or anything like that. I think he was quite sort of forceful in his approach, and I think he tried it where, okay, I'll read your lines, you read mine, and that sort of stuff, and she just thought this just isn't working, and he gave out gifts from Scientology. Again, though, that's by the by. That's got nothing to do with anything, really. But yeah, it's funny because one of the stories that I was reading came up is like Katie Holmes, Tom Cruise's ex-wife, started following Thandie Newton on Instagram. People have picked up on that. So maybe them two will be IG messaging each other. Yeah. Saying, I'll tell you what, you got to try fucking living with him. I think working with him was bad. Fucking nightmare.
He does come across as a mental human being, Tom.
Tom Cruise, yeah, it's funny because we was having this chat the other day with a few lads, and I think it was Mac, one of my mates, was saying, I can't watch Tom Cruise films. My missus hates Tom Cruise. She won't watch a Tom Cruise film. She won't. Like, fucking no chance I get to watch one. But I don't mind him as an actor. I think he's all right. I think he's done a few good performances, like Jerry Maguire and Magnolia, two standouts for me, and I don't actually mind him, but he's obviously, there's a lot of things going on there where you're like, bit odd.
Yeah.
So yeah, but she's Thandie Newton has come out of a few things. She's done like I think it was for Vulture. I think it was for. Yeah. And she did like a really long, in-depth interview. And I'm with you. I've always liked Thandie Newton. She's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Woman, like physically, she's gorgeous. And she's in a lot of interesting films, a few stinkers, but she's always been a talented actress. We talked about one of her films. Is it Run Fat Boy Run? She was in that as the love interest.
Yeah, she was.
But what interested me about the interview she gave, and it's sort of a bit like life imitating art, really, was when she spoke about, I think she went for Charlie's Angels, a role that.
Yeah.
I think she actually was given a role in Charlie's Angels, if memory serves. But she wasn't happy with the director or whoever, the producers, wanted her to almost dumb down, because she's quite a well-spoken, educated person. I think she went to Cambridge or something like that. And they wanted to dumb the role down and make her this sort of almost cliched black person. Do you know what I mean? Like, shit, you beauty and all that. And she was like, well, that's not how I interpret the character or what I bring. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Crash, which she's in.
Yeah, she mentioned that, didn't she? Did it win an Oscar, Crash?
Yeah, there's a big debate about whether it's one of the worst films to ever win Best Picture.
Let's get the premise. So the whole idea of this film, if you haven't seen it, I think a crash happens and it's shown from different angles. Is that right? It's shown from different.
Yeah, the crash is almost the catalyst for, like it's not a cat. It's like all these different storylines, sort of intertwine, and it's about race. It deals a lot with race and racism. So you see like police officers and how they deal with race. You see there's a film director whose wife is Thandie Newton, and how he deals with racism in the film industry, and also himself as well, because he basically gets stopped by the police, and Thandie Newton, by his racist copper played by Matt Dillon, who's brilliant in it. He gets stopped, and Matt Dillon basically sexually assaults her. And then what happens is, the reason I'm sort of alluding to this is Thandie Newton obviously spoke about how she was told to play it down and like for Charlie's Angels make the role a bit of a cliche. And what happens in the film Crash is, I think it's Terrence Howard who plays her husband, who's a director, and Tony Danza, I don't remember him from, I think he was in Taxi and who's the boss and stuff. He's an actor who's around in the 70s and 80s. I fucking forgot about it. He pops up in his film, bizarrely. He plays like the executive. And he basically tells Terrence Howard he's not happy with one of the black actors because the black actor sounds too well educated. And he says, "Can you get him to redo that scene? Has he been having elocution lessons?" And Terrence Howard's like, "No, it sounds great. It sounds fine. He doesn't sound, he sounds a bit too clever, sort of. He needs to dumb it down a bit. He's not really black enough." And Terrence Howard sort of feels sorry for Terrence Howard because of his character, because he's sort of portrayed a little bit like he's too soft, and he lets his wife get sexually assaulted by a police officer, gets bullied at work by a sort of racist producer. But I think he's trying to sort of show the struggle you've got with racism in society. And it's not always the easy case if you just stand up to it and throw your fists about or whatever, or push back. It's a really sort of nuanced performance by Terrence Howard. But yeah, that is what she was saying. She had to dumb down his character, and she was like having none of it. She just thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So she I think she left the film or whatever. It didn't work out. Now that's obviously commendable. If you don't feel comfortable, if you think you've got to dumb down a character, or if you think you're playing a cliche of a black woman, then you're not into that. Then fair enough. More power to you. But the thing is, the only sort of caveat I have with this is it's Charlie's Angels, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? The fucking whole film is full of cliches. The whole fucking, is Cameron Diaz playing an intelligent white woman in that film, or is she playing a fucking airhead? Do you know what I mean? It's almost a cartoon. So I'm not saying Thandie Newton was wrong. I'm just saying sometimes you're going to go for roles in those films. But you can almost expect that they're going to try and take the piss out of you and try and fucking do and get you to play a fucking idiot or a version of an idiot or a cliche or whatever, because it's one of those films that's almost, even before it comes out, you almost know it's going to be fucking nonsense. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think you've got to sort of look at it from both sides. But no, she comes across as really strong, and she went through a lot, Thandie Newton, as a youngster, and I think she was talking about how she talks about, I think she was basically groomed by one of the directors. And how it was in the press, it was more or less touted as they had an affair, where I think she was 16 or something, and he was in his 40s or whatever it was. I can't remember. Forgive me, but it's like, is that an affair, or is that someone grooming a child almost? Yeah. You know what I mean? And she really opens it up, man. She's so fucking raw.
She's such a classy lady, isn't she? I think she's such a class act.
Yeah, she is. It comes across, in her interviews and in her performances as well. And it's great to hear that, and great to hear from someone who's sort of not afraid to upset everyone and say, "Do you know what? This is what happened to me. This is my experience." Naming films, it was Charlie's Angels. She says that.
Yeah.
It was, this happened to me when I was a youngster, and this is how the press portrayed it. And she's not hiding away from anyone. She's not worried about, maybe this will cost me a few gigs in the future. She just goes for it, and she just lays it all on the line. And I think the title of the piece, the interview is, Thandie Newton is finally ready to speak her mind, and she does that, and she does it in as you say, a classy way, and a way like she's not going OTT here and sort of pointing a finger at everyone and going, this is wrong, this is all a disgrace. Da, da, da. She's explaining what went on, how she dealt with it, and why it was wrong. And I think that's really important, because one of my issues, we spoke about this in the past, was I agree with the concept of the idea of Me Too. I agree with that. You know, it was sort of should have happened years ago, really, something like this. And the whole casting couch thing is fucking ridiculous. And do you know what I mean? It's enough to make you sick. But there was times when it just went OTT and there was a hypocrisy around it. There was just people, you know, who were just going a bit too far with it. But I think this is where you look at it and you think sometimes it didn't go far enough, and it certainly should have come earlier than it did. Yeah,
definitely. But what do you think about, because while she does speak out and she points fingers and names films and experiences today, she also talks about this black book that she's got names and stories about certain things. And she's saying about more about the Crash film happening, and she goes, I can't talk about it much because that's in the black book. And this black book that she says she doesn't want to, I think I'm right when I'm saying she doesn't want to get it out until she's passed away, and then she'll sort of release it then. That's right, isn't it? She says she's got a black book of people's names and how they've treated her almost like a diary. But it is a strong thing not to release that now if she's got the names. And to do that, should just to try and be devil's advocate, should she not be saying that now?
What should she? What? Sorry, should she not be releasing it now? You mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the sort of the reasoning behind it is, and the sort of the why she's got it and holding on to it. I think you're right. You know, you could say, I'm going to release it. She may well think, I don't know what the situation is. Some of these people may have families and stuff where she's like, okay, you know, is this going to...
Well, I imagine she'd probably get wrapped up in so many court cases if the names are as long as, you know
say someone, I'm not excusing this, someone's done something wrong, then yeah, okay, you deserve punishment, whatever. But say someone did something 10, 15 years ago when they were 20 at the time, they're now in the 40s, whatever, and you've got kids, and she might look at it and go, I don't want to wreck this guy's life. I don't want to, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know,
it's hard to say without actually.
Yeah, you know, that might be one of the reasons that she's sort of saying, I've got it, but I'm not going to go there because it's going to wreck a lot of careers or a lot of lives, and I don't feel that's necessary. I don't know. I think you know, I think it goes to show as well, we're not done with this, or with the Me Too movement. Or I know it's a bit wrong to cut the Me Too movement because it just fucking umbrellas anything, doesn't it? That comes.
I hate that. That's what
I'm guilty of it now, and I shouldn't do it because it's not just all the fucking Me Too. It's, you know, women speaking out about shitty experiences they've had at the hands of knobheads. So you know, it just shows that there's a lot more skeletons come out of the closet in Hollywood.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm like, we don't need to. I know it needs to have a name as a movement, but we don't say that they're part of this Me Too movement, because, like we're saying, we say this all the time in this podcast. Everyone's experience is different, so you should really take it on a case by case scenario rather than box it in, because I think you lose. Because when there are sort of wild accusations, they dilute what are serious accusations. You know what I mean? I think they take it away from it. One interesting point on the Charlie's Angels film, though, was that in the sequel of Charlie's Angels, Bill Murray didn't get the part in the second role, and Bernie Mac took his job based on, I think it was Lucy Liu had issues with how Bill Murray had actually treated Lucy Liu on the set of the first Charlie's Angels.
Really?
Yeah. But you've got to wonder if that was playing through the director's mind after he heard about Thandie Newton wouldn't take the role in the first one. I don't know. But yeah, that's why Bill Murray didn't get the...
It's interesting, Mike. William Goldman, the famous screenwriter, he said there's three types of films, right? When you set out to make a film, there's three ideas. There's one where you set out to make a really good film, and it turns out really good. There's one where you set out to make a really good film, and it turns out really bad. And he said the third one is where you set out to make a really bad film, and it's just as bad. He said sometimes Hollywood will make a film, they know it's shit, but they'll make it anyway because it might make money. So when you release fucking Police Academy 6, City Under Siege, whatever, you know that's shite. It's going to be garbage, but it might make you a profit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that a little bit with the Charlie's Angels. I think everyone involved in that probably knew it was shite, but it was going to make money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's one of those films, in it. It's just like, fucking, yeah, we get enough stars in it, and it's a revamped TV series that was popular. It'll make money, but it's not fucking very good. And I think, yeah, it's like, this whole sort of thing around the Charlie's Angels and everything that's going on around it, it's almost like, you know, I'm not dismissing it, but it's, when you're going in those films, what are you expecting? Do you know what I mean? Like, if Thandie Newton turned around and said, you know, I was Steven Spielberg offered me a role in fucking Amistad or whatever, and then he wanted me to do a fucking striptease in the middle of it. I'd be like, "What? I'm outraged. This is ridiculous. How the fuck can you do this to us?" But in Charlie's Angels, they wanted me to act like a cliche black person. I'm like, it's fucking Charlie's Angels, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's what you're dealing with.
Yeah,
shit film that they probably knew was shit when they were making it, but it'll make us some profit. So I just think you've got to sort of take it as look at the role itself and the film itself and say, you know what, maybe that's sort of almost what you expect from that.
Yeah, well, if we didn't have Charlie's Angels, we wouldn't have the Destiny's Child banger, which is independent women, and which is probably the only thing that was good that came from that film. But we have been Scotty and Motty. We work well together, and we work well alone. But we can't do this without any of you guys and girls watching out there. So thank you very much for all your comments. Hit 800 subscribers today. Thank you very much, and you're all watching for a long time as well. We really appreciate the comments and everyone. Well, get in touch. Let us know what you're thinking about toxic masculinity. Tom from Kasabian. Kanye West, can he come back from this latest episode? I've been Scotty. He's been Motty. And we shall see you very soon.